Hi, Igor.
Hi, hey, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you doing?
It's nice Saturday morning, a bit gloomy in Melbourne, but uh,
We take what we
it
get.
is. It's May. It's Melbourne. That's why we like it. That's why it's
Absolutely.
still there,
Ab-
despite everything else.
Absolutely. So, first of all, let me thank you for doing this with me. I've started this as a bit of an experiment, a bit of learning as well. And thank you so much for waking up early on a Saturday morning and joining me to do this. I really appreciate.
Thank you, Harry. It's also a very good experience, and thanks for inviting me. And looking forward for this chat. It's the first podcast for me, so maybe not last. Who knows?
Awesome, awesome. So for our audience, to give an introduction, Igor and I, we both work together at a company called Redify. The brand doesn't exist anymore, but it kind of lives on in the hearts of all the Redifarians that were there. An amazing company. I had 7.5 years working there with you, and you've had a lot more time working there as well. The company eventually folded to Telstra. Telstra acquired it. Um, but essentially, that's where our friendship started. Initially, I was on the sidelines looking at other projects that you were doing, and we were both on different projects. But slowly, we got to start working together. And 7.5 years is a long time. So I would throw the mic back to you to give a quick introduction of your career journey and where you are right now.
Thanks, Harry. It's really interesting to look back right now and into this journey and to see how much things changed. And it's also a bit scary, to be honest, because next year I will celebrate 30 years of professional work in software development.
Amazing.
So yeah, it's a bit scary to say. And, let's start from the beginning. It's the best way, it's the best place to start, right?
Yes.
So in 1994, I've done my first immigration from whatever called Soviet Union to Israel. Started to study in the Technion, is the Institute of Technology. Uh, really grateful for this, for the level of education that they gave me. And thanks to this education, after 2 years, I was able to start my first software development job.
Nice.
Obviously, now, if I say what I've done, it's maybe many people want to know what the hell are you talking about? Because I was doing development of UI development for MS-DOS.
Oh,
For
okay.
people who maybe know, it was pre-Windows. I'm
Yes.
that. Yes, I'm that old. Um, but actually, this gives kind of perspective how things change. And I guess
Yes.
this change is uh, more or less a highlight of our discussion. So let's just remember UI for MS-DOS in C. Um, it's my first job. After this, spent 10 years working for different companies, mostly startups, doing really exciting projects. One of them was a um, company that they done chemical analysis for mining industry. So you can put a
Nice.
piece of stone or material into this. They do kind of this fire like a X-ray or something. Not on it's been a long time ago, and based on spectrum of that reflected from the stone, they could identify which materials are in to identify if it's valuable or not. Done a couple of other projects, Unix, Windows, all this stuff. And in 2005, yep, I moved to Melbourne. I myself, why not?
Nice.
And this when I started working with .NET, mostly backend, uh, web. usual .NET stuff. And then, got myself into mobile world.
Nice, nice. It is
Mm,
quite interesting you mentioned the 2005 .NET move to .NET because a bit of shared history there. I did a bit of when you said DOS based development, yeah, I mean I was also looking at C and CPP, and mostly procedural programming to start with, and then having those menus and things like that. Never GUI. But 2006 is about the time when I got into .NET as well, because the rage at the time, especially for the US companies, was moving from .NET 1.1 to 2.0. And I remember um, getting quite excited about things like generics. It's that was a completely different thing, and the .NET 2.4 framework pushed a lot more things into the library, so you didn't have to write a lot of things. You just could use the library, um, and you had generics. So you had, if you want to create a list, just pass the object as a generic list with T, and it's amazing. And you could sort it and do a lot of things. I remember that time, and that's when we wanted to convert everything to .NET 2.0 because it made our life so much easier. So it just triggered that memory when you mentioned 2005, 2006, you moved to .NET.
That I remember in this time when we talk about generics, .NET people would say, "Yay, generic! We can release whatever you just mentioned." And C++ people saying, "Templates? Anyone?" It was there for ages. But what I can say is, when they started putting everything into library, I f- I saw like a trend when companies would develop libraries,
Yes.
utilities to use, and then .NET 1.1 become .NET 2.0, and then people say, "Oh, we just wrote quite a lot of utility libraries, and now it's everything in a framework.
Yes.
Now we need to go and delete all the stuff and move to the framework versions of the same functionality." Lots of people were a bit upset about it. We waste our time. I always look at it as a compliment because if we wrote those utility library inside the team and they were implemented later by Microsoft in this example, it means we did the right thing because people actually need it.
Yes.
It means that we are on the same page, we are on the right path. So
Yes.
it means we are good as a team. We can continue use same way of thinking
Yes.
because if Microsoft implements it later on, we are good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Especially things like file handling, file reading, like, it would automatically open file, it will automatically close file. You didn't have to worry about those kind of things. Yeah, that was a big that is a big change. But even today, the parallel is that some new technology comes out, people build libraries around that, and then the parent company builds the same functionality in for the next release, and suddenly these companies are upset because, oh, we were doing a custom plugin for you, and then you just included it as part of the standard library. I think that pattern doesn't end even 20 years later.
It's a it's a, it's never ending uh, cycle, but it's not a circle. It's spiral because we always go up, but
Yeah.
we know with a similar path. Company or to say I don't want to say companies, teams develop something that they need, like an initial version, and if these requirements relevant not only for this particular team, so like very narrow niche, but it's useful for many people, it means that it's likely that the parent company will implement similar functionality. It means we're on the right path. If not, it could be either, again, narrow niche, or maybe there's a better way to do things. Something to always look back do retrospective, as we say in the agile world, and decide what's better way to do this in the next print version. The,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I did interrupt you slightly because you were going to mention about your journey into the mobile development world, but I did interrupt you for reminiscing a little bit on
all good.
2005.
We just having a chat, and it's good chat. Yeah. So back to this. So my first experience in mobile was around 2008, 9-ish. Those years, I was really Microsoft person. I had obviously Windows laptop. I had a Windows phone or predecessor of Windows phone. Uh, so, and I was so happy when the framework called Xamarin came to market
Yes.
because it allowed me to create mobile apps when using my favorite Visual Studio because I was a big fan. And you don't need to go to this Max and say, that's what I said then. And you can create application for iOS or for Android
Yeah.
using C Sharp, using Visual Studio. It was awesome. So my first mobile experience was using Xamarin. It wasn't ideal, obviously. It was one of the first versions, but it was pretty good. Let's also remember in those days, development for iOS or for Macs was done in Objective-C.
Yes. Yeah.
So obviously, in times of C Sharp, getting used to all things that you just mentioned, like generics and proper ID, etc., going back to Objective-C was a bit difficult, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Obviously, later when Swift came along, it became much better. But in those days, it was pretty good. And coming back to Redify, I am very, very thankful for this company for opportunities that I was exposed to. Speaking about opportunities, stepping aside from mobile,
Yeah.
I was lucky to get into something close to game development. Obviously, we didn't develop games, but we we got exposure to the new device that Microsoft developed, then called HoloLens.
Yes.
I still think it's a really awesome device. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think different marketing approach could bring this device to much wider usage in industry, maybe even to consumer market. But again, I'm developer, I'm not a product marketing specialist. That is just my gut feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with you on that one because I haven't seen any other device like HoloLens. I've seen a few during the VR boom at the time, but HoloLens was quite unique. I suspect it also failed a little bit because they wanted to really run a version of Windows on it instead of going for a operating system that would have been working for that device specifically, and also because it was Microsoft thinks corporate, so they think everything in terms of how do I get this into the corporate world. And it could have worked actually, like, it was very cool. I remember we having events, and like even when we get kids in to like, or even when we go to events, right? We would get kids to trial out the HoloLens, and people will be like zooming into the solar system and things like that. It was a great device. It just didn't find the right use cases for it to continue. I think they tried to go big, but yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that you think it's still a good device.
Yeah, is And again, maybe they need to think more about use cases because you can compare HoloLens and Apple Vision Pro. It's similar concept, but opposite use case. And it's interesting to see if Apple Vision Pro will get to places where HoloLens, uh, the examples they're gonna talk about is proof of concept that we created. And again, I'm very thankful for this opportunity because we had a team who went to Seattle to Microsoft mothership headquarters. We spent 6 weeks there developing proof of concept for the HoloLens app for a small company called Qantas, right? And the idea was that when people want to inspect potential damages on a plane, what they do, they put plane in hangar, and then there's a special like a crane that can bring a technician to all places in the on the plane and to inspect if damage is serious or no, no, you can just put sticky tape on top. Uh, but I'm not joking. So it was, but the problem is, if, for example, technician sees a damage, sometimes it's not, technician's knowledge not enough to determine if it's serious or not. So, because if behind the top layer there are like a fuel tubes or oil tubes, if they're damaged, it's a big deal.
Yes.
But we don't know what's behind the skin. And then they need to unscrew this top layer, look inside. What if we could look under the skin?
Behind, yeah.
And what our what do we do? You can press a button and then you see like an X-ray view what's behind the skin in this particular place. So it was really exciting. It was really cool as a proof of concept.
Yeah.
And coming back to our discussion about company releases new versions that
Yes.
covers whatever you did by yourself, after we finished, couple of months afterwards, Microsoft released Microsoft Teams for uh,
HoloLens.
HoloLens,
Yes.
and it was cover about 80-90% of our
Proof
application.
of concept. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but coming back to use cases, so the idea was the technician put HoloLens on and makes a call to specialist to engineer in a head office. The engineer in the head office uses a PC or laptop, whatever, stationary computer to look through eyes of the technician and give advice.
Yes. Yes. A bit of a
What?
sci-fi movie thing, right? Like, where you have teams back there looking at the, the eyes of the spy and
Yeah,
giving instructions, and also X-ray vision. That's the best part. Like, you're seeing behind
yeah.
what is a panel.
But the point is, if you look on Apple Vision Pro, the use case is completely different.
Yeah.
In in a similar scenario, if Apple Vision Pro would be in use, the technician wouldn't wear any device. Technician would use a mobile phone to stream stuff from the remote location.
Yeah.
The engineer in the whole head office puts this VR device, and the engineer will see schematics and whatever is needed to make
Yeah.
an informed decision about the severity of the damage in in front of the eyes, right?
Yes.
So we see opposite use case. In the field, you don't need any device. You
Yeah.
use mobile phone that it is with you anyway.
Yes. Although in the field, HoloLens would have given the technician to be hands free and walk around because it is stuck on your head. whereas comparing to like walking around with a mobile, you still need your hands to do that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, you have different tools, and it obviously depends on exact use case, but in general, the concept is, again, you see, if you need to go to remote location, you need many devices, or you need to ship those devices into remote location. It's not flexible.
Yes.
Mobile phone, everyone has it. And then you need fewer devices that they're expensive. In a head office, and then specialist will probably borrow the device from a pool when needed and will be able to provide an advice to a remote worker because we have much more remote locations than the head offices.
That is a good point because I remember we had a SharePoint list tracking where our HoloLens were.
Yep,
I think we had four that we
yep,
had,
yep.
which we initially got two, and then we had difficulty bringing it from the US as well because it's a new device. People did not know what this is, but we had about four in the Redify office, and then like we'll ship it to Sydney, we'll ship it back, we'll ship it
Yeah,
to Perth, we'll ship it back. So yeah, I remember that part.
yeah. So, but again, I don't say what is right, what's wrong. I just say it's a completely different approach. It's interesting to see what happened with the Apple Vision Pro, how successful it will be, because I used it. It's also awesome device. Couple of proof of concept for Vision Pro. It's really good. It's really good, and obviously very different. And time will tell.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you were able to visit both Seattle and Cupertino.
Yep.
So can you tell me a little bit about your experience, difference in experience? Obviously, like we are still fans of Microsoft. We are also fans of Apple when it comes to some of the other devices. So it would have been a very interesting thing for you from being a core Microsoft guy, going to Seattle, and then also visiting Apple.
Yep. Then, as I say, I was really Microsoft fan, and with the Redify crew and some clients, we go to Cupertino. Now, imagine myself coming with my backpack with the Microsoft Ignite logo. They already discontinued Windows Phone, so I went with the second best Android phone. And well, I equip it like this. I'm coming to uh, Apple headquarters, Infinity Loop building. And we had a tour around the area, and it was interesting. I wasn't a fanboy then. I was a bit skeptical. Yeah, yeah, interesting. The whole team obviously they were Apple fans, and oh, you see, okay, cool. But when we started to talk to Apple people, I got hooked a bit. Never had my Android phone, but what we did there, we were part of the workshop they called Day in the Life, which was the way how Apple approaches user experience of new applications of new apps for clients, right? The idea is we don't talk about screens. We don't talk about functionality. Initially, we focus on people. We brought potential client with us, potential user of the new app, and this person was interrogated completely. And we ask, okay, what do you do in the morning? You stand up, you wake up. What do you do except obvious? What's next? So I check which clients do I have, which supplies I need to buy, and etc. etc. So we walked with this person through the uh, from the moment he wakes up to till end of the day. So we interrogated this person and we asked what this person does from the moment that he got from the bed until he goes to sleep.
This is the end user you're talking about. So the
Yes,
day
end
in
user.
life experience is about trying to understand the end user of the product rather
Yep.
than, yeah.
Then we went, we analyzed all those interactions during the day, and we took couple of use cases and we wrote this day in a life, kind of imagining how it will look like if app magically is implemented.
Okay.
So, for example, instead of I open my calendar to see which clients do I have, and then I dig into each client to check what is needed. I open an app, and app tells me, "Good morning, John. Today you have this client. Here a list of all supplies you need for the day, and here where you can get them, and here your best route to multiple probably shops or warehouses where you can get it." And now I go to first client and I potentially spend more time than I estimated. I get notifications that you delayed it. Do you want to call to the next client and warn people that you're going to be delayed? You know, stuff like that. And in this case, we go through the new daily life. We ask end user, what do you think? Is it feasible or not? Because it's what we think. Now,
Yeah.
you tell us if it's for what you want, and then we once we agree on a couple of use cases, we go uh, to have a rest. Majority of the team goes to have a rest,
Yeah.
and meanwhile, our UX designers would actually create a kind of a low feasibility designs of the app, how it
Okay.
will look like.
Yes.
And by the end of the workshop, using tools like Figma, you can actually have a kind of working prototype of the future app.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
and now what you need to see is how people react when they get it at the end of couple of days of workshop. It's really, really kind of experience
Yeah.
that I cannot forget. And later on, when we came back to Australia, I was really lucky to be part of the crew who brought this workshop to Australia. And we've done multiple such workshops for Australian clients. And what we also did, we made another layer and we added technical people like myself, developers. We even created actual proof of concept mini apps by the end of the workshop. So we can actually demonstrate to the potential client, here is the actual app you can play with this.
Yeah. I remember some of
So,
those because I remember that we had one of our Apple ambassadors in Redify. So I hired him across from Telstra, and he was the only one who were authorized to do Apple workshops, day in a life workshops in Australia at first. By the end of the first year, we ended up having 5 Apple ambassadors. We had a great growth with that first hire, and then expanding from there. So yeah, that I remember that one. It was pretty good, especially they would work late into the night from the workshop to actually get the prototype out, because it's a 2-day workshop, and the next day morning they are actually seeing some usable screens.
yep. Yep.
from a prototype perspective, and
Yep.
people would be wowed away.
Yeah. A bit of bragging. I was the first developer who was an Apple ambassador in Tesla. Beforehand,
Yes,
only salespeople and
there was only
UX
Glenn.
designers.
Like, so Glenn was the first one in Telstra from a designer point of view, like
Yep.
who ran the workshop. So I hired him into Telstra, Purple, and
Yep.
then you as a developer, and then we had Sam and
Yeah.
James and others. Like, so we had a few more join
Yep.
the ranks
Yeah.
of Apple ambassadors.
It was a really good experience. Right?
Awesome, awesome. And
It's
and
all
when
in
you look
past.
at it, right, it's also a little bit of human-centered design, like, because what you're trying to do is follow the human instead of like following the technology, and then looking at what the human is doing, and then figuring out where technology can assist compared to, oh, I have a product, let me find a use case for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Focusing on human is was hooked me into this ecosystem instead because the focusing on the tech and don't get me wrong, I like tech. I'm a nerd myself. I like tech, but when you develop apps, you need to focus on humans because not all people are nerds, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I don't know. But it's a fact of life. But most of people use tech to achieve their goals. They
Yeah,
use tech to make their life easier, to optimize their daily duties, to be able to come back to families, spend time with their kids. And this, what I think, is the core of our job as developer. We need to help people to get their lives back. Instead of spending hours filling forms, collecting invoices, etc., we need to minimize this wastage of time for people. We want people to focus on what they do best. Like if people are accountant, they need to understand that they need to think, okay, talk to client and ask right questions about the income and setup. But once numbers in, calculations and etc., it's boring for people.
absolutely. Yeah,
Let's outsource it to the app. App will do this. And same for other professions as well.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And you did mention about the original development of Apple apps in Objective C, and then slowly it moved to Swift, and it moved to various IDEs, made development much easier. And can you compare that with, in general, the rise of IDEs and how much IDEs are actually doing for us now for a developer compared to what we had to do at the start, right? And so how we can focus on different things now compared to trying to remember syntax.
Yeah. If it, well, let's go back to the beginning again and to my if, kind of MS-DOS development, right? I still remember we had a bunch of CDs from I
Yes.
think from then from Borland, but it was Turbo C something, right? Obviously, no IntelliSense like we used to. We had the actual CDs, and you need to open it and open them and search through a list of functions to understand which function do you call. You could, if you need to get some system level function, you just go through the list and search for you read all description and search for the function that can help you, right? Obviously, because of this mode, people would try to remember as many functions as possible.
Yes.
I mean, I remember during interviews, they would ask you to write a piece of code on a piece of paper using system function that you're supposed to know, supposed to
Remember, yes.
remember,
Yeah.
right? Obviously, nowadays it sounds like, hey, crazy. Why would I remember? And you just put dot and you get all functions, right?
Yes.
And Google came along, and then magically you can just search and you can find. Now I remember people saying, "That's it, world is over." the end of our life as developers, because now anyone can search.
Yeah.
Who needs us? Who gonna pays us to do the job? Is anyone can Google and get all answers, right? As we can see now, Google didn't kill developers, right? It made us more efficient. It freed some energy instead of remembering a function, going through those CDs, moving things online, searching, and get information. And you can get information much quicker, right?
Yes.
More efficient. You can develop faster. You can develop more, right? Now we have AI coming along, and you hear that, wow, the world is over. We will be replaced by AI. But let's not forget, like Google in those days, AI today is just a tool that can help us. We can try to resist, but why?
Yeah.
Let's all of us as developers, we can learn how to use it and how to say, if you can't win them, join them. Let's join the AI, use it in our daily lives as a people and as the developers, and let's become so efficient so everyone will hire us because we can do things faster and better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How's your experience using AI so far? Are you using it daily for development?
Uh, yes and no, because currently I'm not doing actual development per se. I'm now a solution designer, so my
Okay.
development is in Word, you can say. But overall, yes, I use AI on daily basis
Okay.
for my personal life, and when I do my pet projects, obviously I use AI as well. It helps, but again, let's not forget AI is just a tool. We all know AI can hallucinate.
Yes.
So I think about AI in many cases like a Google on steroids. Your queries are your search. You get a couple of results instead of 25,000 pages Google gives you.
Yeah.
But it's up to you which of them you choose. It's up to you to take answer as is, or you refine your query, you refine your prompt to get better answer. You
That's a
need
good
to
point.
verify the answer.
Yeah.
It's on you as a developer. Don't say Chat GPT or Cursor or whatever AI tool you use uh, gave me wrong answer. No, we all developers.
That is a
Developers
good point.
wrote those agents. We
Yeah.
all have bugs, and this is much more complicated because in normal in the old style applications, if there's a bug, it's likely that you can go and find the line of code that caused a bug. In case of AI, sometimes it's not possible because a bug or hallucination could be caused by wrong data or wrongfully selected data, or because the model wasn't perfect. Something were missed while model was built. Sometimes it's not a bug as a wrong line of code. Sometimes it's a bug
From
in
the
a.
training data. Yeah.
You cannot pinpoint the line of code that is possible. But
Yes.
for all users of AI, it's up to us people. I'm not talking developers now. Up to us people to check everything before we take these answers and pass as our own further. And it
Absolutely.
could be everything. Maybe you ask ChatGPT to create a letter to your, insurance company to give you something, right? Or letter to, or you edit your CV or cover letter, whatever people use it now. it helps. It helps a lot. But final decision is ours as people, not AIs. At
Absolutely.
least, at least today. What happens in the
Absolutely.
future? No, no, but
Yeah. Yeah. A couple of points I want to touch base on there is that one, when I was a SharePoint consultant, right? Like, and I was more into SharePoint than into .NET, like in my later years in Redify. Although I've done a variety of projects, even for .NET, right? So the main point was you Google something, you get Stack Overflow, you get a multitude of results, but then most results were very generic. You had to figure out what is the one that is actually apt to your situation. And also, you should never copy paste code which you don't understand. That was my principal rule for even the graduates that I looked after, was that if you're using code, you have to first understand the code and then use it. Because if you don't understand, then that is an issue because you're responsible for it. And what happens was that whenever a new technology comes out, a lot of people want to blog about it. They want to talk about it, so they would do the basic implementation of it in the simplest possible scenario, and then they would blog about it. But come to the real world, it doesn't actually work because the simple scenarios are not the ones that people pay us for. So
yep.
it was always interesting to try and figure out like what is the exact thing that you need to do, and it depends on your knowledge to differentiate between, oh, that's a scenario that would not work, this is a scenario that would work. So that part I just wanted to call that out, which you already mentioned. The second part though is the amount of code generated by AI though is a little bit bigger than the snippets that we used to paste out of whichever blog it was. Now that's where it gets a little bit scary. So I have side projects as well. I've used Claude and ChatGPT to do some AI based coding. I haven't done anything fancy, but in Visual Studio Code, what you can do is you can select the files that you want it to look at as context, and then you can ask it to simplify it or review it and things like that. So, but the struggle I have faced is that it makes a lot of changes in just a few minutes. And you're spending the next 1 to 2 hours trying to figure out all the changes and nothing broke. And that is probably one big difference that I'm seeing from previous ways of development, is that you selected things first and included it, whereas now there's things are already included and you're trying to figure out if it is kind of okay.
Yep, yep. It is a problem. I not arguing here. It is a problem, and that's where testing or the unit testing is important because regardless of who does this massive change, it could be bunch of developers or yeah, it doesn't matter. But if you have good tests that cover particular functionality, even someone change completely everything. If test gets broken, something is wrong. You understand where problem could be in test or problem could be in changes. But regardless of this, it's up to us, to developers, to ensure that every line of code doesn't matter if I type it or I ask a AI agent to generate 2,000 million lines of code. If I push my changes under my name, it's my responsibility.
Yeah,
And that's what we need to remember, because saying, AI broke things, you can try, but it's not a real excuse, right? We push code, it's our responsibility. We are ultimately responsible for what we uh, send to the repo, what get built, or what get released.
absolutely.
We cannot transfer this to something else.
Ab- Absolutely. There was one thing I wanted to ask. Can you describe or even recollect a couple of interesting projects that you had from your career? It could be anything from early days or now. Just to recount, obviously we covered the HoloLens part of it, which was awesome. Is there one or two more that you want to share?
Uh, It's interesting because it's a bit related to our discussion about when we implement library and then next version comes along and whatever you implemented, it's already part of the framework. Similar thing, I had a relatively short, about 6-7 months gig, and circa 96, 97. It was when I was still a student, and I worked for the faculty of mechanics in the uni, and I was helping to master degree student with his thesis project.
Okay.
What he wanted to do is to help people who need to get prosthetic bones because of injuries, broken legs, etc. The idea was that if we can get a broken bone, for example, and we can create the exact copy in terms of size, shape of the said bone from artificial materials, and then we give it to people, the healing will be much faster. Now, don't ask me about medical things. How do they do this?
Yeah.
I was just student, third year student for, software developer, so I didn't really care, to be honest. And then we actually had a stand where you would put this object, and then the idea was we had a laser where we could scan this object, get all dots scanned, and the idea was to create a program for the CNC machine to recreate exactly the same um, uh,
Structure.
object, right? Now, as you can see, we already from the spec, we already can see some familiar functionalities that we already have now. For example, isn't kind of an AI tool that creates the code from dots from points in space. Or overall, currently not any, but I would say good 3D printer can do out of the box.
Yes. Yeah. I was thinking that, there are scanners that come with as complementary to 3D printers where you scan the object and then provide us the code.
Yeah, now it's easy, right? But then
Yes.
it was really interesting. We had a connection to the motor, and we would send the signal move, stop, scan, move, stop, scan. It was really, really low level libraries that we used to implement this. And what we discovered something that people don't think about this type of problems. Obviously, you want to do it fast, right? So we just to scan, move, scan, move, scan, move. Because it was so fast, it created so much kind of the system was so shaky. It's actually disintegrated. All screws got unscrewed because it was so fast. So
Yes.
it was just
Understood.
constantly shaking, and we were forced to put delays into the program so it would move not that fast. So that when it moved, stop, take a breath, think about life, take a scan, move, stop. So it obviously took much more time than we would love to, but otherwise it would just the system would completely disintegrate.
That is so funny. Yeah, to actually slow it down. I remember using the sleep function in .NET and in JavaScript a lot back in the day because you wanted things to start rendering and then go for the next option because otherwise, you're
Yep.
going too fast. It's very interesting. You came to the uni student project. So in this world of AI and Google and ChatGPT, what advice do you have for people who are upcoming into this craft of software engineering today? Because there are some advice, good or bad, out there saying, "Oh, look, software engineering is dead. ChatGPT is here. So, what are the students going to do?"
I would say focus on foundations. Foundations don't change. When I look back into what kind of materials I was taught in uni and the tools we used for development those days, 90% don't exist of those tools, right? I remember when we learned computer uh, structure, right? Low-level language, we used assembly for PGP 11.
Yes.
This computer wasn't in use, was already in use in those days. We asked our teachers, why do we learn this instead of, for example, x86? Because it was the
Yeah.
current it will be useful. Well, they told us, our job is to teach you basics how things work. Once you know this, it won't matter for you if it's 886 or RISC or any other processor. You will know how to do things. And same with programming languages. We use, I remember PL, we learned PL1 at some stage. We use Smalltalk, right?
Yeah.
No one uses these languages, but these languages, they're very good to learn concept of programming. Once you know concept, language doesn't matter. And now looking back, I'm very thankful for this way of education. If they would just teach me whatever was the latest tech then, I would learn them, I would enjoy them, but then tech would change and I would be, oops, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
this approach allowed me, okay, we come to company, yeah, we use different language. Okay, give me a couple of days, I will, I will learn it. I remember
Absolutely.
when I was told about this project to write a iOS app with Xamarin, our state managers asked me, "Can you do this today? No, give me a week of PD, and I will be able to do this." That's what I did. I took a week of PD. I sat with on the client side because they had Macs. We didn't have Macs then,
Yeah.
and I was learning. And after a week, I said, "Okay, what's next?"
And interesting, very interesting. Yeah, because I remember some of that during my programming days as well. I mean, I still program, but where I had to rapidly scale up. Before I go to that, six programming. We had that. We had assembly language programming when we had to learn programming in uni. I remember, we had to allocate registers for the processors. I don't think people know what registers these days. But you had to actually allocate the register and the heap and the stack and everything. You had to make sure that you know what you're doing
Yep,
in terms of utilizing the very little memory that the processor have
yep,
and make sure that you still had enough memory freed up to do the rest of the things. So yeah, very interesting in terms of knowing the fundamentals, basics around your algorithms like sorting and all of that, encryption basics, signals and systems. Those are all basics. I mean, I really didn't like signals and systems. I think what I didn't like more was probably information systems where you had all these error correction formulas and things like that. It was crazy. But yeah, the fundamentals actually matter. Maybe not all of it. Like, you probably use 30% of the fundamentals that you learn in uni later in different times of your programming, but at least it gives you the ability to go one more layer deep to figure out what were they trying to do here,
Yep,
and troubleshoot.
but you see, yeah, sorry for interruption, but you see, you just said very important thing. You use maybe 30% of fundamentals. It's true. I would say maybe less. The problem is when you're a student, you don't know which 30% you're gonna use.
Yes, yeah,
So I would recommend do as wide as possible. Learn as many fundamentals as possible. No one says learn everything to the very deep level. Not possible. So many things is not possible. But at least know the basic stuff. Know what all different technologies are about, and know how to find more details if needed or when needed. All the rest will come because you don't know what you're gonna do. As as you can see, I couldn't predict that I will use AI to write mobile apps 30 years ago.
yeah,
People didn't know these words. Internet was barely existing, right? Well, I can say I started programming before Google existed, right? So you couldn't predict what's happening in the future. But foundations are the same. When you look on a system design, you look on the way you build your code, you get this kind of hunch. When is it right or wrong? You look in the code, it doesn't matter what is the technology, what language. You look in the code and you say it's wrong. Sometimes you don't know what's wrong.
yeah,
You need to dig deeper. But you get this kind of feeling that this looks beautiful. Beautiful usually right. Or this code is ugly. Yes, it works, but it's ugly. It means something is wrong. If it's not broken now, it will be broken tomorrow. It's not working now, but if tomorrow you want to do small changes, it's gonna take you 2 weeks to do the small changes instead of a couple of days. So if you get this kind of feeling of what's right, what's wrong, it will help in the future. But this coming from experience and fundamentals.
absolutely, yeah. Especially the patterns and what pattern to use when, that comes from experience. And I think that is one of the struggles with not having enough junior developers come into the workforce as well. I think we had a little bit of that during COVID times when a lot of graduate programs were cut, which meant that suddenly you didn't have people to hire for senior roles.
Yep.
That was a crazy time. Like, so 2021, 22, you didn't have enough mid-level devs to hire. And then there was a rapid promotion cycle, and then there was a huge drop in everything. So yeah, it's quite interesting. And to your other point about rapidly scaling up, like, I remember times when I had to scale up very quickly on new stuff, shiny stuff. I remember there was this time when a customer asked, "Can we do WPF?" Like, that is a Windows Presentation Foundation. That was 2010, 2009. Um, and I remember spending an entire weekend learning it back to front, just to get the fundamentals. And you had to interview at the client later. And I cleared the interview with flying colors, like, because the fundamentals, you pick up the fundamentals, you can easily explain things, and you can pick it up enough to start programming with it. But cool, yeah, that's a great share for anybody who's starting out, that fundamentals still matter, and that you should focus on the fundamentals, and then maybe add a light layer on top of how to use modern tools, how to use modern programming. Yeah,
Once you know fundamentals, you know what to expect from tools. You know, maybe on very dumbed down level, but Whatever IDE you use, you still need to compile and run the app. So
Absolutely.
even if you get completely new IDE, you will go and look and okay, where's the build button, where's the run button, right? Worst case, you ask ChatGPT, where's this run button on this tool? You get your answer, but you know what to look for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And probably we can end with, what is a non-technical advice that you would want to give to people?
It's non-technical. I would say today is a very, very exciting world. We have so many new shiny toys to play with as a developers, right? Different technologies, different UI. We have AI helping you from here and there. You can implement easily um, some AI agent that will do magical stuff, and it's all really cool, but it's very addictive. Maybe developers are usually very passionate about technology. We're really eager to go and learn. The danger of this is we're gonna sit and learn and learn and learn. We're gonna spend hours looking into this. We will sit with on our desks and we will uh, spend a lot of time. And we will become really, really good developers. But there's a real danger, and I can tell from personal experience, it could create lots of problems. It could create a mental health problem, physical health problem. Been there. So, as non-technical advice, use different tools if you want, or just try to do some self-control. Find your time, and you can find time. Doesn't matter how busy you are, you can always find the time. Get out, go for a walk. If you have dogs, even better, they will force you. Move, move around. Don't forget you have family, you have kids, etc. With all our love to development, to technology, with all our nerdiness, those things are more important. And my only hope is that at least maybe if it's one or two people who will listen to this, and this will help them not to get to rabbit hole where I was, I would say it is success. Don't forget the big picture. Those are tools. Today you have tool one, tomorrow you have another tool. It's going to change. Family, lives are more important than every work, every tool, every tech. It
Absolutely.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. So, if I may add a couple of points onto that, um, one big thing you mentioned is about the physical health aspect of it. When you start out, when you're young, like, you actually don't realize you actually have body parts. Like, I mean, the back is there, the hands are there, it's working, and you don't realize it until you hit um, your mid 30s and above, and you're starting to feel like, oh, why is my shoulder a bit sore or my back a bit sore? So it is very important to preempt that. It's very difficult, but to actually put a timer in, or to take some breaks and do some stretches and ensure that we don't overwork. I think in our industry it is a tick box exercise when it comes to occupational health and safety. People focus on postures and chairs, but generally they don't focus on how much time you're sitting in a chair. And you can get really engrossed in it. I can go 3 hours even now straight up doing something and not realizing it's been 3 hours. So that's the first aspect. The second aspect is the mental health aspect of it as well, because when you're going down a rabbit hole, sometimes if you don't have other things that are also being balanced, what happens is that when one thing fails, everything else gets knocked over. So it is very important to have some variety in your life, in terms of whether it's your career, whether it's your learning, whether it is like, having friends and family around, making sure that that aspect is taken care of as well, so that um and you have to be passionate about work anyway. Like, I mean, I could never work too less anyway. But it's also about making sure that there is something what you're looking forward to after work, and that is important.
Balance is the key.
Yeah.
Passion is good, but balance is the key. We need to find a balance to ensure that all aspects of lives are taken care of.
Yeah. And if you don't have friends who would call you out on things, then you have a problem. You need to find friends or family who would call you out and say, hey, that's wrong. Because most people would just stand by. And if they really want you to change, they will actually call you out. But it's hard, right? Because people don't appreciate people who call out their bad behavior. But you actually need them. And that is important, so that you get a bit of self-reflection.
Yep, so true, so true.
Yeah, absolutely. Igor, thank you so much for doing this podcast with me. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as well. I thoroughly did, catching up after a very, very long time. So awesome. And thank you.
Thanks, Ray. It was a really good experience. Looking forward to to listen to the final version, and we'll see. We will catch up again.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.